I don't get his costume.
Any duct tape repairs needed, let me know. That's right. Exactly. I forgot my red and green suspenders, but that's okay. So for our first act skit of the evening, we have the Schrocks +1. That would be Daniel K. And if you need a mic, please use this one. If you don't, that's fine. Some of you have songs or solos or whatever. Please feel free to use the mic. Welcome, the Schrocks +1.
Cool was he, and logical, keen, calculating, perspicacious, acute, and astute. Emmett was all of these. His brain was as powerful as a dynamo, precise as a chemist's scales, as penetrating as a scalpel.
And think of it, I, only 18.
It is not often that one so young has such a giant intellect.
Take, for example, Petey Bellows, my roommate at the university. Same age, same background, but dumb as an ox. Nice enough fellow, you understand, but nothing upstairs. The emotional type. Unstable, impressionable, worst of all, a faddist. Fads, I submit, are the very negation of reason. To be swept up in every new craze that comes along, to surrender oneself to idiocy just because everyone else is doing it, this, to me, is the acme of mindlessness.
Not, however, to Petey. One afternoon, Emmett entered the dormitory to find Petey lying on his bed with an expression of such distress on his face that he immediately diagnosed appendicitis.
Don't move, don't take a laxative, I'll get a doctor.
Raccoon!
Raccoon?
I want a raccoon coat.
He perceived that Petey's trouble was not physical, but mental.
Why do you want a raccoon coat?
I should have known it. I should have known they'd come back when the Charleston came back. Like a fool, I went to spend all my money on textbooks. Now I can't get a raccoon coat.
Can you mean that people are actually wearing raccoon coats again?
All the big men on campus are wearing them. Where have you been?
In the library. No big men there.
He leapt from the bed and paced the room, trying to conjure up some way to ease his pain.
I've got to have a raccoon coat. I've got to.
Okay, Pete, look at it rationally. Raccoon coats are unsanitary, they shed, they smell bad, they weigh too much, they're unsightly.
You don't understand. It's the thing to do. Don't you want to be in the swim?
No.
Why do? I'd give anything to have a raccoon coat. Anything!
Emmett's brain, that precision instrument, immediately slipped into high gear.
Anything?
Anything.
It just so happened that Emmett knew where to get his hands on a raccoon coat. His father had had one in his undergraduate days. It lay now in a trunk in the attic back home. It also happened that Petey had something Emmett wanted. He didn't have it exactly, but at least he had first rights on it. I refer to his girl, Polly Epsy. He had long coveted Polly Epsy.
Let me emphasize that my desire for this young woman is not emotional in nature. She is, to be sure, a girl that excites the emotions, but I'm not one to let my heart rule my head. I want Polly for a shrewdly calculated, entirely cerebral reason.
Emmett was a freshman in law school. In a few years, he would be out to practice, and he was well aware of the importance of the right kind of wife in furthering a lawyer's career. All the successful lawyers he had observed were, almost without exception, married to beautiful, gracious, intelligent women. With one omission, Polly fitted these specifications perfectly.
Beautiful she is, gracious she is. By gracious, I mean full of graces. She has an erectness of carriage, an ease of bearing, a poise that clearly indicates the best of breeding. At the table, her manners are exquisite. I have even seen her at the cozy campus corner, eating the specialty of the house. A sandwich that contains scraps of pot roast, gravy, chopped nuts, and a dipper of sauerkraut. without even getting her fingers moist.
I want to back to the coat.
Intelligent? She is not. In fact, she veers in the opposite direction.
Emmett felt that, at any rate, it was worth a try. It is, after all, easier to make a beautiful dumb girl smart than it is to make an ugly smart girl beautiful.
Are you in love with Polly Epstein?
Well, I think she's a pretty keen kid, but I don't know if you'd call it love. Why?
Do you have any formal arrangement with her? Are you going steady or anything like that?
Well, we see each other quite a bit, but we both have other dates. Why?
Is there any other man for whom she has a particular fondness?
Not that I know of. Why?
In other words, if you were out of the picture, the field would be open. Is that right?
Well, I guess so. What are you getting at?
Nothing.
Emmett shrugged innocently, then took his suitcase out of the closet.
Say, where are you going?
Home for the weekend.
Listen, while you're there, you couldn't get some money from your old man, could you? And lend it to me so I could get a raccoon coat?
I may do better than that.
And out Emmett walked, suitcase in hand and a mysterious grin on his face. The weekend passed, and Emmett returned once again Monday morning. He threw open his suitcase and revealed the huge, hairy, gamey object his father had worn in his Stutz bear cap in 1925.
Look!
Boy Toledo! Boy Toledo! Boy Toledo! Boy Toledo! Oh, yes!
Petey clutched the greasy pelt to himself. Then a canny look came into his eyes.
What do you want for it?
Your girl.
Polly? You want Polly?
That's right.
Never!
Okay, if you don't want to be in the swim, I guess that's your business.
Emmett sat down in a chair and pretended to read a book. But out of the corner of his eye, he kept watching Petey. Oh, he was a torn man. First, he looked at the coat with an expression of a waif at a bakery window. Then he turned and set his jaw resolutely. Then he looked back at the coat with even more longing in his face. Then he turned away, but with not so much resolution this time. Back and forth, his head swiveled. Desire waxing, resolution waning. Finally, he didn't turn away at all. He just stood and stared with mad lust at the coat.
It isn't as though I'm in love with Polly, or going steady or anything like that.
That's right.
What's Polly to me, or me to Polly?
Not a thing.
It's been a casual kick, just a few laughs, that's all.
Why don't you try on the coat?
He complied. The coat bunched high above his ears and dropped all the way down past his knees. He looked like a mound of dead raccoons.
It's fine.
Is it a deal?
Petey swallowed hard.
It's a deal.
Emmett had his first date with Polly the following evening. This was in the nature of a survey. He wanted to find out just how much work had to be done to get her mind up to the standard he required. He took her first to dinner.
Gee, that was a delish dinner.
Then he took her to a movie.
Gee, that was a Marvin movie.
And then he went home. Took her home.
Gee, I had a sensation time.
Emmett went back to his room with a heavy heart. He had gravely underestimated the size of this task. This girl's lack of information was terrifying. Nor would it be enough merely to supply her with information. First, she had to be taught to think. This loomed as a project of no small dimensions, and at first he was tempted to give her back to Petey. But then he got to thinking about her abundant physical charms, and about the way she entered a room, and the way she handled a knife and fork. So he decided to make an effort. He went about it, as in all things, systematically. He decided to give her a course in logic. It happened that he, as a law student, was taking a course in logic himself, so he had all the facts at his fingertips.
Paul, tonight we're going over to the knoll and talk.
Ooh, terrific.
One thing I'll say for this girl, you go far to find another so agreeable.
They went to the knoll, the campus trysting place, and sat down under an old oak. Polly looked at him expectantly.
Well, what are we going to talk about?
Logic.
She thought this over for a minute, then decided she liked it.
Magnificent.
Logic is the science of thinking. Before we can think correctly, we must first learn to examine the common fallacies of logic. This we will take up tonight.
Wow, Dow.
First, let's examine the fallacy called dicto simpliciter.
By all means.
Dicto simpliciter means an argument based upon an unqualified generalization. For example, exercise is good, therefore everybody should exercise.
Oh, I agree. I mean, exercise is wonderful. I mean, it builds the body and everything.
Polly, it's a fallacy. Exercise is good is an unqualified generalization. For example, if you have heart disease, exercise is bad, not good. Many people are ordered by their doctors not to exercise. You must first qualify the generalization. You must say that exercise is usually good or exercise is good for most people. Otherwise, you've committed dicto simpliciter. Do you see?
No, but this is Marvy. Do more, do more.
Okay, it would be better if you stopped tugging at my sleeve. Next, we'll take up the fallacy called hasty generalization. Listen carefully. You can't speak French. Phoebe Bellows can't speak French. I must therefore conclude that nobody at the University of Minnesota can speak French.
Really? Nobody at all?
He tried to hide his exasperation.
Paul. Fallacy. The generalization was reached much too hastily. There are too few instances to support such a conclusion. Next, let us examine the fallacy called post hoc. Listen carefully. Let's not take Bill on our picnic. Every time we take him out with us, it rains.
I know someone just like that. A girl back home. Eula Becker, her name is. It never fails. Every time we take her on a picnic, it rains.
Polly, it's a fallacy. Eula Becker doesn't cause the rain. She has no connection with the rain. You are guilty of post hoc if you blame Eula Becker.
Oh, I'll never do it again. Are you mad at me?
No, Polly, I'm not mad.
Then tell me some more fallacies.
All right, next let's try contradictory premises.
She chirped, blinking her eyes happily.
Yes, let's.
I think we better call it a night, actually. I'll take you home now, and you can go over all the things you've learned. We'll have another session tomorrow night.
Emmett deposited her at the girls' dormitory, where she assured him that she had had a perfectly terrific evening, and he went glumly home to his room. Petey lay snoring on the bed. Petey lay snoring on the bed. The raccoon coat huddled like a great hairy beast at his feet. For a moment, Emmett considered waking him and telling him he could have his girl back. It seemed clear that his project was doomed to failure. The girl simply had a logic-proof head. But then he reconsidered. He had wasted one night, he might as well waste another. Who knew? Maybe somewhere in the extinct crater of her mind a few embers still smoldered. Maybe somehow he could fan it into flame. Admittedly, it was not a prospect fraught with hope, but he decided to give it one more try. He took her and seated her under the oak the next evening.
The first evening we will discuss tonight, my dear, is called ad misericordiam.
She quivered with delight.
Listen closely. A man applies for a job. When the boss asks him what his qualifications are, he says that he has a wife and 6 children at home. The wife is a helpless cripple. The children have nothing to eat, no clothes to wear, no shoes on their feet. There are no beds in the house, no coal in the cellar, and winter is coming.
Oh, that's awful. That's just awful.
Yes, it is awful, but it's no argument. The man never answered the boss's question about his qualifications. Instead, he appealed to the boss's sympathy. He committed the fallacy of ad misericordiam.
Have you got a handkerchief?
He handed her a handkerchief and tried to keep from screaming while she wiped her eyes.
Next, we will look at the fallacy of false analogy. Listen, students should be allowed to use their textbooks on examinations. After all, surgeons have x-rays to guide them during an operation, lawyers have briefs to guide them during a trial, carpenters have blueprints to guide them during while they're building a house. Why then shouldn't students be allowed to use their textbooks on an examination?
Now there is the most Marvy idea I've heard in years.
Polly, it's a fallacy. Doctors, lawyers, and carpenters aren't taking a test to see how much they've learned, but students are. The situations are altogether different, and you can't make an analogy between them.
Well, I still think it's a good idea.
No. Next comes hypothesis contrary to fact. Listen, if Madame Curie had not left a photographic plate in a drawer with a chunk of pitch blende, the world today would not know about radium.
True. Did you see the movie? Oh, it just knocked me out. That Walter Pigeon is so dreamy. I mean, he fractures me.
If you could forget Mr. Pigeon for a moment, I'd like to point out that the statement is a fallacy. Maybe Madame Curie would have discovered it at a later date. Maybe somebody else would have discovered it. Maybe any number of things would have happened. You can't start with a hypothesis that is not true and then draw any supportable conclusions from it.
You know, they really ought to put Walter Pigeon in more pictures. I hardly ever see him anymore.
One more chance, he decided. But just one more. There is a limit to what flesh and blood can bear.
Next, let us examine the fallacy called poisoning the well.
Oh, how cute.
Listen closely. Two men are having a debate. The first man stands up and says, "My opponent is a notorious liar. You can't believe a word he is going to say." Now think, Polly. Think hard. What's wrong?
He watched her closely as she knit her creamy brow in concentration. Suddenly, a glimmer of intelligence, the first he had seen, came into her eyes.
It's not fair. It's just not fair at all. What chance has the second man got if the first man calls him a liar before he even begins talking?
Right! 100% right! It's not fair. The first man has poisoned the well before anyone could drink from it. He's hamstrung his opponent before he even got out of the gate. Polly, I'm proud of you.
Oh, shucks.
See, my dear, these things aren't so hard. All you have to do is think, concentrate, examine, evaluate. Come, my dear, let's go over all the things you've learned.
Yes. Fire away.
Heartened by the knowledge that Paula was not altogether a cretin, Emmett began a long, patient review of all he had told her. Over and over again he cited instances, pointed out flaws, kept hammering away without let-up. It was like digging a tunnel. At first, everything was work, sweat, and darkness. He had no idea when he would reach the light, or if he even would. But he persisted. He pounded and scraped and clawed, and finally was rewarded. He saw a chink of light, and then the chink got bigger, and the sun came pouring in and all was bright. 5 grueling nights with this it took, but it was worth it. He had made a logician out of Polly. He had taught her to think. His job was done.
She is worthy of me at last. A suitable mother for my well-heeled children. A fit hostess for my many mansions.
It must not be thought that he was without love for this girl. Quite the contrary. Just as Pygmalion loved the perfect woman he had fashioned, so he loved his.
I decided to acquaint her with my feelings on our very next meeting. The time had come to change the relationship from academic to romantic. Polly, tonight we will not discuss fallacies.
Aw, geez.
My dear, we have now spent these 5 evenings together. We have gotten along splendidly. It's clear we are well matched.
Hasty generalization.
That's hilarious.
Hasty generalization. How can you say we are well matched? matched on the basis of only 5 evenings.
He chuckled with not very much amusement. The dear child had learned her lessons perhaps too well. He decided to change tactics. Obviously, the best approach was a simple, strong, direct declaration of love. He paused for a moment and let his massive brain choose the proper word. Then he began.
Polly, you are the whole world to me. The moon and the stars and the constellations of outer space. Please, my darling, say that you will go steady with me. For if you will not, life will be meaningless. I will languish. I will refuse my meals. I will wander the face of the earth, a shambling, hollow-eyed hulk.
There, let us do it.
Ad misericordiam.
He ground his teeth. He was not Pygmalion. He was Frankenstein, and his monster had him by the throat. Frantically, he fought back a tide of panic surging through him. But, at all costs, he had to keep cool.
Well, Polly, you've certainly learned your fallacies.
Oh, you're darn right.
And who taught them to you, my dear?
You did.
That's right. So you do owe me something. I mean, if I'd never come along, you would have never learned about fallacies.
Hypothesis contrary to fact.
Polly, you mustn't take these things so literally. I mean, this is just classroom stuff. You know the things you learn in school don't have anything to do with life.
Dicto simpliciter.
That did it. He leapt to his feet, bellowing like a bull. Bellowing like a bull. Bellowing like a bull.
Will you or will you not go steady with me?
I will not.
And why not?
Because just this afternoon, I promised Petey Bellows I would go steady with him.
The after he promised, after he made a deal, after he shook the hand. You can't do it, Polly. He's a liar, he's a cheat, he's a rat.
Poisoning the well. And stop shouting. I think shouting should be a fallacy too.
With an immense effort of will, he modulated his voice.
All right, you're a logician. Let's look at things logically. How could you choose Petey Bellows over me? Look at me, a brilliant student, a tremendous intellectual, a man with an assured future. Look at Petey, a jitterbug, a knothead, a man who will never know where his next meal is coming from. Can you give me one logical reason why you would choose to go steady with Petey Bellows?
I certainly can. Petey Bellows has a raccoon coat.